Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is another ear tutorial for you guys. I made a set of Mandalorian inspired ears for my friend Rowan for her birthday, and I figured I'd go ahead and post the tutorial. So I did do these in a different way. I did sew these ears, but just so you guys know, if this is your first time on my channel, I have tons of DIY no-sew Mickey ears. So if you are not comfortable sewing, that's okay. But if you are comfortable either hand sewing or using the machine, this is a great alternative to some other methods just because it is one of the lightest sets of ears on your head. So if you're prone to headaches, this is a great tutorial for you. So again, we're going to be going through kind of a new method and also Mandalorian inspired. So without any more chit chat, let's jump into this tutorial. So I picked up this Mandalorian fabric at Hobby Lobby. I thought it was really cool. I loved the colors of it, and I had a really different idea for how I could do the bow. So I was really excited to find this for Rowan for her birthday, and I'm going to be using my ear cutting line template to cut out 4 ears, if that makes sense, like 4 halves. And so I'm just picking the photos that I liked the most. So I did 2 of his helmet where it just says Mando. I did 1 of him and the child, and then I did 1 where he's, you know, full body standing up and it says the Mandalorian. There is another like line of designs on this where you see like a stormtrooper and stuff. I obviously didn't need that, but make sure that when you get your fabric cut, although you only need 6 inches, you want to make sure you're getting the designs that you want. But once you've cut 4 or traced 4 of these, go ahead and cut them out, and then you're going to need to sew these with the particular method I'm going to be using. If you are not comfortable hand sewing or using a sewing machine, you can always use one of my older methods using hot glue. I will have my entire DIY ear tutorial playlist linked below, so don't worry guys, you can totally make Mandalorian ears even if you don't want to sew them. But I'm going to be using my ear sewing line template. I'm going to trace the sewing line on using this invisible ink marker. I picked these up at Walmart. They're only a couple dollars and they are amazing. And the ink just disappears after about an hour or so. And then this holographic vinyl sheet is what I'm going to be using for the bow. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch my ears. I just do a straight stitch all the way across. Make sure to back stitch when you start and back stitch when you end. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about with the sewing, I have a DIY sewing ear tutorial along with a billion non-sewing ear tutorials. Going to the vinyl sheet now, I cut a little square that is 5 inches by 5 inches, and then we're going to accordion fold this into our bow. It does seem a little odd to make a square shape, but it just gives you a really nice bow when you're folding it. After doing that accordion fold, I'm going to hot glue it into place in 2 different spots, and then I also cut myself a little strip of the exact same material that's going to be the centerpiece of our bow. This material does take a little while to dry, so make sure that you hold it in place just while that glue is setting, and then once it's set, you can do a little dot of hot glue on the bottom and wrap around your little strip of vinyl. I did wrap mine around twice originally, and then I decided not to do that just because I didn't like the overlapping look. So I only wrapped it around once, and then I'm applying another dot of hot glue and just pushing down that bottom piece into it. And look at how cute this bow is. This is like my new favorite bow that I've ever made, I think. So I'm going to do these ears a little bit differently than other pairs on my channel and try to make them super lightweight. So I'm using this really thick green foam. I picked up a sheet of this at Joann's a long time ago. Now please ignore me, I'm actually using the wrong template and I ended up having to recut these out. But I used my ear sewing line template. You actually need to use the one that says foam and batting in the description box below if you're using my templates. And then I'm just going to cut these out with some scissors. And these are going to be the stuffing for our ears. To stuff these, I'm going to flip my ears right side out, obviously after I've stitched them, and then I'm going to kind of roll this up almost like a taco, put it into the ear, and then I will smooth it out. Now, because we're not using cardboard or, you know, foam poster board or anything like that, these are going to be much lighter weight on the head. So if you are someone who suffers from headaches, this is definitely a really good option for you. I did want to leave this in. I forgot to trim the excess over my seam allowance, which is basically after you've stitched it, you're going to have a little bit of extra fabric outside of that seam. So just very carefully, you're going to want to go in and trim to get a little bit closer to that seam line. Obviously, be super careful with this. If you cut the seam, you are going to undo all of the sewing that you did. But the reason you want to do that is because it prevents puckering of the fabric. So now once you put that stuffing inside, it's going to be a really smooth edge along your ear. Next, we are going to close up the bottom of these ears just with a hot glue gun. So I'm just folding over my fabric toward that styrofoam, or that's not styrofoam, toward the foam? I don't know what to call this stuff. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and fold over my fabric into just a thin line of hot glue. Now, I didn't originally add trim onto my ears, but I would go ahead and do that before you do this step. I just didn't know I was going to add trim until I placed them on the headband. So I'm using my ear spacing template to attach them to the headband. I am just going to be hot gluing down the ears onto the headband, but I like to use the ear spacing template because it makes sure that I get a nice symmetrical look to the ears as opposed to kind of guessing and then they look kind of lopsided. Using this method, the hot glue will take a little bit longer to dry because it's a softer core than when you do a cardboard core, so make sure that you do hold the ear in place long enough for your glue to dry. This is the trim that I had that I thought matched the best to this particular design. I did pick this up at Hobby Lobby if you guys are looking for it. I like to use trim on the edge of the ears that has texture to it. I do not like to use just plain flat ribbon. I think the ribbon actually points out any imperfections that might be on the ear, whereas a ribbon or a trim with a texture is going to cover it up. So I'm just going to do this a little bit at a time. I'm going to add a little line of hot glue and then tap down the trim into the hot glue. And then once I get to the end, I'm going to snip off the excess and just apply a little bit more hot glue to make sure that this trim stays in place. Again, if you are going to add a trim, I would suggest doing this before they're on the headband. It's just a little bit easier that way. And the final step to these ears is adding on that super pretty bow. So I'm just going to be applying a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of this bow, and then I'm going to firmly press it down onto the headband. Again, with this particular material, I would suggest holding it in place for a pretty significant amount of time before letting go, just to make sure that glue has time to set and dry fully. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it and liked this kind of newer method of making ears on my channel. Be sure to check out my other ear tutorials, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.